Hey everybody, welcome to the Sky This Summer for 2025. This is of course our June meeting, which is the last meeting before the summer. We take our break in July and August. And so for this month, I'll give a little bit of an extended Sky This Summer, which will cover from tonight, June 13th, up until the end of August in September. And so I'm going to change things up just a little bit. I'm going to go out of my usual order and kind of flip the script a little. And just to save time this month as well, I won't be showing any photos from the membership. Rest assured though, if you've sent in photos for this month, then I will certainly be sharing them in September. And of course, throughout this summer, if you have any photos that you wish to share with me, that you want shown to the membership during my Sky This Month presentations in the fall and winter, then send them over to observing@amateurastronomy.org. Of course, that'll be your photos, any sketches that you want to share, any cool observing stories that you have, basically anything related to stargazing, sky watching, anything astronomy related at all within the vein of observing. You can send it over to me and I'd be happy to share it. Also would like to ask for some suggestions on what to do for the Sky This Month. This has been my first year doing it, started in November, and the feedback I've gotten is all positive so far, but I was wondering if there's anything I should change up, anything I should add, anything that you want me to focus more on. I've sort of tailored these talks towards an intermediate kind of level of observer. You know, I don't want to go too plain and too basic, but I also don't want to go too advanced and talk about, 13th magnitude supernova remnants that you can only see with a 16-inch DOB, because obviously that's not too helpful for new members and intermediate members, but I also don't want to talk about going out and trying to explain the phases of the moon, because of course we have a diverse range of experience in our club and a diverse skill set. So let me know what you think, and let me know if I should go more advanced, should go more basic, what you want to see, if there's anything more particular you want me to focus on. I try and divide the time up between naked eye objects, naked eye sky, the planets, the deep sky, and the moon. Again, if you want to, anything you can think of, let me know, give me your feedback, and I'll be happy to tailor my Sky This Month presentations towards that. And again, so for this month, I will not be sharing any photos from the membership, but rest assured, I can tell you right now, September will be chock full of photos that have been shared. So, with that in mind, we'll head right over to Stellarium. And so I have Stellarium set for 11 o'clock tonight. That is Friday, June 13th of 2025, location from Hamilton. And I'm going to, again, flip the script a little bit. We're going to start off by going through all of our planets for this summer, the next couple months. So we're going to start off with Mercury. And Mercury, unfortunately, for this summer, is it's behind the sun, or too near the sun to observe anyway, for all of June. And it does start moving away for a little bit. It reaches its greatest elongation on July 4th. But that being said, it disappears again behind the sun in the middle of July, and it won't be visible until August 15th or so. So we'll go ahead here and move forward 2 months, and we'll move to the early morning sky, where, as you can see right there, just before sunset, Mercury begins popping up. It is still in that early morning twilight, and it will be visible for, let's say, an hour or so before sunrise. Fleetingly visible. It is not as bright as Venus, not as bright as Jupiter, obviously, but if you're trying to get some views of Mercury, unfortunately, this summer you'll have to wait a couple months until August. But for the rest of August, it is up there in the early morning sky before, again, it starts moving back down towards the sun. So moving out from Venus, or from Mercury, of course, to Venus. And we'll head back here September, August, July, June, towards today's date again. And we'll set the sky at 5 a.m. So Venus, this is the summer of Venus, because all summer long, from now until September, Venus will be an early morning object, and it'll be over there on the eastern horizon, in June, in July, in August, and in September. So you have a whole summer to see Venus, and we'll pop ahead day by day here. This is at 5 a.m. again, before sunrise. So moving forward through the month of June, you can see Venus hanging there very high in the morning sky for at least a couple hours before sunrise and an hour or so after, sorry, not an hour or so after sunrise, a couple hours before sunrise. And there even in August, at the beginning of August, as the nights begin to get longer, the days begin to get shorter after summer solstice, more and more opportunity to see Venus. We'll skip ahead a few more days here to the night of the 12th, which is, of course, the peak of the Perseids night. But here you can see as well Venus and Jupiter within a degree of each other in Gemini in the early morning sky. And as I said in the EH article, the night of the 12th in August is a night that you should keep marked in your calendars. Obviously, Perseids night, but there you have a wonderful, wonderful conjunction, very close of the two brightest planets in the night sky, right before sunrise. So if you're staying up all night long to try and catch your Perseids, or if you go to bed early, try and get up before sunrise, because there you go, just before 4 a.m. it'll rise. Both of the planets will rise, and they will be visible until 6 a.m. or so at sunrise. So that is August the 12th. Great conjunction there. And we'll move a little bit further ahead, still centered on Venus. And as you can see, even though it is sinking lower and lower towards the end of August, nonetheless, all summer long into September, plenty of opportunity for viewing Venus. Now we'll move on to Mars. Hopefully this isn't too jarring. Okay, there we go. Head back into June. Ooh. It's today's date. And we'll go back towards the evening. And there you can see 10 p.m. Unfortunately, right now, the longest day of the year is 1 week from now. So even at 10 p.m., the skies are still fairly bright and still darkening. But there you can see Mars is still in Leo. And it'll be lingering on the western horizon there near Regulus for the rest of the month. It does sink lower and lower, and around midnight it begins to set. But we'll move ahead a couple days here on the night of the 17th. You can see a nice conjunction there right above Regulus, the brightest star in Leo. So that is just a few days from now. The 17th will be Tuesday evening. So that's a great view as well, and a great photographic opportunity right after sunset. And on the night of the 29th as well, we'll skip ahead a few more days. There we go. Another one featuring Mars and the Moon, and this is a beautiful, beautiful conjunction, because there you go. That is within less than half a degree of the Moon. So you get your scope out there, your binoculars, even naked eye. This one on the night of the 29th, and the 29th will be a Sunday evening. That is definitely another one to mark in your calendars, because that's a very close conjunction. And if I'm correct, at some point during the day, somewhere in the world, I think it's Antarctica or something like that in the southern hemisphere, the moon actually does occult Mars. We won't be able to see that, but nonetheless, here we are, nice and close. And again, beautiful opportunity for, ooh, my bad, beautiful opportunity for a great telescopic view of the red planet and the moon. And Mars, again, as the month goes by into July and into August, it sinks lower and lower, and it'll disappear into twilight towards the beginning of August. So again, if you want to take any peeks at Mars, try and see some of the polar ice caps, try and get your large aperture scope trained in very, very close, and pick out some of the color and some of the detail on the planet, then you at least have a month and a half or so to do that before it begins setting too close to the sun. So zooming back out here, we will move on to Jupiter. Jupiter right now at the end of June has set by 11 o'clock. That is because it is passing behind the sun in June, and it appears in the morning twilight towards the second week of July. So we'll head over to the morning sky go 5 a.m. and move on into July. And you should see it in a sec. And there we go. So around the 12th or the 13th or the 14th of July, Jupiter begins peeking up in the morning sky before sunrise. And for the rest of the summer, it reaches higher and higher up in that morning sky. And it's joined a few times throughout the course of the summer months by various planets and the moon as well. And it becomes a very favorable object towards the beginning of the fall. So we'll just move day by day here and see the motion of Jupiter as we push on through the summer. And you can see each morning higher and higher, earlier and earlier. Coming up again, there's that conjunction on the 12th between Venus and Jupiter. And then by the end of the summer, at the start of September, by 5 a.m., Jupiter is already halfway up on the eastern horizon in Gemini. And it should be rising around 2:30, 3 a.m. So, plenty of opportunity as well to take a peek at Jupiter. It's a pretty good month for the planets. We'll move on to the ringed planet, Saturn, next. And Saturn is over here in Pisces. And this is September again. So we'll skip it back a month towards August. There we go. And it's a good one for Saturn this summer as well. Beginning of June, it's a morning object. So we'll head back June 13th or June 14th this morning. And there you can see about 10-15 degrees up on the eastern horizon around 3 a.m. And as the summer progresses, it gets higher and higher and higher. So if you're looking to see some planets in July and August, unfortunately you're going to have to get up nice and early, but there's plenty of opportunity to see them. And there you have Saturn raising higher and higher. And of course, all summer long, Saturn's rings are nearly edge-on, not exactly edge-on. And you have its tons of many moons here that you can see. Obviously, Titan, the brightest moon, but then you have Rhea, Dione, Tethys, and Enceladus. And many moons that you can track over the course of a couple nights as they orbit around the planet. And so Saturn, of course, early morning object, and something to keep in mind as well is that very close to Saturn all summer long, right there, is Neptune. So early morning object once again, and Neptune doesn't stray more than a few degrees away from Saturn from June until September. So if you're looking at Saturn, you might as well go ahead and take a peek at Neptune as well. And Uranus in June is very close to the Sun, passing behind it. So June is a no-go if you want to see the nice fainter and tiny blue disk of Uranus. But nonetheless, it rises higher and higher as the summer goes on. And it's in Taurus for the month of August. So this summer you can see Mercury, you can see Venus, you can see Mars, you can see Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus all fairly easily at some point during the summer months. So plenty of planetary opportunity for our planetary observers out there. Now we'll head back again to tonight and move on to the moon next. See what the moon is doing this summer. See if I can find it right now. Not in the sky on July 29th. Let's go back to tonight. And we have the moon right here. So in June, full moon was 2 days ago on the 11th, and new moon is on Wednesday the 25th. In July, full moon is on Thursday the 10th, and new moon is on Thursday the 24th. And in August, we have full moon on Saturday the 9th. Unfortunately, that is also our Perseids night, and you'll have a pretty bright moon all throughout Perseids weekend, but what can you do? And new moon is on the 23rd. There are a few notable conjunctions and close passes of the moon with other objects. So on June 19th, the moon is going to be pretty close to Saturn in the morning sky. A few degrees away. On July 16th, the moon will again pass within 2 degrees of Saturn in the morning sky. We'll actually flip and show that. There we go. 16th right there. Moon and Saturn in Pisces on the southeastern horizon in the morning. On the 23rd, it comes close to Jupiter. We may as well pop ahead a bit. There, 23rd, 4 or 5 a.m. You have a nice triangle here between Venus, Jupiter, and the Moon as the Sun is coming up. In August, on the 3rd, it is within 2 degrees of Antares in the evening sky. On the 12th, it's again within 4 degrees of Saturn. On August 19th, there's a conjunction between the Moon, Jupiter, and Venus. And again, interesting summer for the Moon. Plenty to see. I have all of those dates in my EH article, so go and consult that if you need to. But plenty happening with the Moon, plenty close passes, and tons of opportunity to test your photographic skills and to show off some nice conjunctions to any new observers and new astronomers or family and friends that you want to try and get into the hobby or show off your brand new telescope too. So, moving back out here. Sorry, my stellarium is a little bit jumpy. We'll skip ahead to August, back to the 9th. And August 9th, of course, is our Perseids night. And that is Saturday, August 9th at Fimbrook Conservation Area. And so for those who don't know, the Perseid meteor shower is tied with... the Perseid meteor shower is probably it's the most popular and most well-known meteor shower in... Sorry, my apologies there. I usually record this, I usually do my recordings in the bedroom upstairs, the quietest part of the house. And a bird just flew into my window and totally distracted me and totally flustered me there. I'm not sure if you could hear that in the recording. There was a thump on the window. Totally just flustered me for a second there. Too far into the recording to stop and start again. My apologies. Anyway, Perseid meteor shower is up there with the Geminid meteor shower as the most active and most popular and most well-known of the year. The Geminids, of course, are in December, which is less than favorable weather conditions. Sitting outside all night long in the freezing cold, we don't want that. Perseids are in early August when the weather is nice. Fortunately, the nights are shorter, but the Perseids have their radiant point, obviously, in the constellation of Perseus. Right there on Stellarium, they have the radiant points marked out, and you can see there it is. So all the meteors that you'll be seeing, all the shooting stars, can be traced back to this point if they are indeed a Perseid. And so on any given night, under a nice clear, dark, and moonless sky, you can see around 100 meteors of varying brightness and intensity. Sadly for us, on this year's Perseid night, we have a gibbous moon in the sky down here at the start of the night. So you'll have to stay out a little, or rather, my bad, there you go. We have a gibbous moon out all night long this year for the Perseids night, so that will definitely impact how many meteors you can see. But nonetheless, don't let that discourage you because the Perseids are known for being nice and bright. So you'll still definitely see at least a few per hour if you take your lawn chair out there and just sit back, relax, and look up at the night sky. And that is our public event, and we have the picnic beforehand for members, and then it's open to the public at Fimbrook Conservation Area on Saturday, August 9th. So mark that down in your calendars as well. So now we'll move into the naked eye sky and some deep objects for each month. We'll head back again to the night of the meeting, June 13th at 11 o'clock. So here is what the sky looks like for the month of June around 11 o'clock. So you step outside or once you get home from the meeting, take a look up, and here is what you're going to see. Start off over in the eastern horizon. Over here in the east, we have our summer constellations, which are Rising up after sunset, we have Cygnus the Swan, Aquila the Eagle, Sagitta the little arrow here, and your summer constellations in your summer triangle of Vega, Deneb, and Altair, and Sagittarius and Scorpius down here in the south. And there is your summer Milky Way starting to rise, starting to reach its best position towards the middle of the summer. Looking up, we have the spring constellation still very high in the sky. So you have opportunity this month to continue on your search for galaxies over in Virgo and Leo. And you can look over in Hercules and Bootes over here for all of the globular clusters that are in this area of the sky. And then moving over towards the north, Cepheus, Cassiopeia, and Ursa Major. Big Dipper is well placed high enough for any objects that you want to see over here. And then towards the west, the head of Leo and those spring constellations, Cancer, are beginning to set. And so for deep sky viewing in the month of June, there are plenty of objects that you can go out and see. Let me pull up a list right here. And again, it's so exhaustive because the summer Milky Way is just so rich in so many objects that it would take up so much time to list off which ones you should see. Plenty of resources online that you can go and literally just search deep sky objects for the month of June, deep sky objects for the month of July, and you'll find list after list of things you can see in binoculars, things you can see in a small scope, things you can see in a big scope, naked eye, photographic objects. The summer truly is the best time for that. But as I just mentioned a few seconds ago, or a few moments ago, June is good for your globular clusters. And over here in the area of Ophiuchus, Scorpius, and Sagittarius, all the way up to Hercules, you can see the little circle in the cross on Stellarium denotes all of your globular clusters. So we have M92, which is a nice one, M13, which is one of the best and the brightest in the sky, M3, M5, M12, M4, down here M62, M22, which is another fantastic one. Plenty and plenty of globular clusters in this stretch right here. You can spend the night picking out the brighter ones and picking out the dimmer ones. So that is your focus for June. Try and pick out some globulars and focus on this area of the sky. Plenty to see. And you move in even more, and Stellarium has options for how dark you want, or sorry, how dim you want to set your deep sky objects. Right now I believe I have them around magnitude 9, but for those with a bigger scope, there's just so much that you can see, even in this area of the sky, which is generally considered to be pretty empty, but nonetheless, Corona Borealis, Virgo, Bootes, and Ophiuchus. See what you can find in this area, and again, still have opportunity for all of the galaxies over here in the Great Virgo cluster, which is still going to be visible until the early hours of the morning in June. So we'll skip ahead now to July, and here's your July sky. Move a little bit ahead, middle of the month. So Leo is pretty well set as the sky gets fully dark. Virgo is down low, too close to the horizon to see anything over there. But now we have Sagittarius and Scorpius, the entire constellation above that southern horizon, and with it right here in the Milky Way's core, the very heart of the Milky Way, placed right there in the south for your viewing pleasure. So many objects that you can go through here. The summer triangle is higher and higher over towards the east. And then we have some of the fall constellations around 11 o'clock at midnight beginning to rise. Andromeda with the Andromeda Galaxy, Perseus, and Aquarius over here. And straight up, Draco, Hercules, Cepheus, many objects that you can see over here towards the north. And again, Ursa Major still well placed. So obviously, this is going to be your focus here in July. I'm not even going to bother listing them off. I have some of the brightest Messier objects in the EH, but Sagittarius, Scutum, and Scorpius just have such a wealth of objects that are placed within that dense cloud of stars in the Milky Way core that you can spend an entire night not straying far from either of these constellations and just pick out object after object. We have globular clusters, we have nebulae, we have open clusters, we have planetary nebula, we have star clouds, we have dust clouds, the Great Rift up here. There's just so much that you can see. And certainly a wealth of Messier and bright NGC objects, and these are, of course, some of the nicest, some of the brightest, some of the most photographic or photogenic, and some of the most picturesque that the night sky has to offer. So that is your focus for July, right there in the southern horizon, before in August it begins to set a little too low to pick out a lot of them from that murky horizon swamp. So here we are in August, middle of the month again. And you can see, as I said, Scorpius is now starting to set, Sagittarius close behind it. In the east, Pegasus is now fully up, triangulum with it, Aries and Perseus. And as the night goes on into the early morning hours, you have your fall constellations starting to come up. And then back over there in the west, the spring constellations are fully set and setting earlier and earlier. And this is your best time to trace your way, as I said in the EH article, down that summer Milky Way, because as the Earth changes in its orbit around the Sun, coupled with the Earth's rotation, we find ourselves in the summer months looking in towards the center of the Milky Way, and that obviously is what the core is down here. We are looking in towards the heart of the Milky Way. In the wintertime, you can still see the Milky Way arching across the sky, but we're looking further out, and since Earth is placed about 2/3 of the way out of the core of our galaxy, when we're looking in, we see a heck of a lot more than we do when we're looking out. So for this month in August, for our deep sky observers, you can start down over here in Perseus with its wealth of open clusters. There's just tons of them over here. Perseus double cluster, of course, the big one, but many different ones, NGC 1502, M34. And literally just take your telescope, take your binoculars, whatever you're observing with, and begin down here in Perseus and just follow the path of the Milky Way all the way across the sky through Cassiopeia. Tons of different objects. NGC 7789, a beautiful, beautiful open cluster. M103, the same. Tons within the little W of Cassiopeia. And you move along up through Cepheus and Lacerta here, and you have photographic objects such as the Cocoon Nebula, the Elephant Trunk Nebula, and the Wizard Nebula. These are mainly photographic objects for our astrophotographers. Moving up into Cygnus, you can just see all of these little objects in here. The North American Nebula, which is huge, covers a huge area of the sky, and that's a tough one to see visually, but boy does it make a great object for wide field astrophotography. And in the heart of Cygnus, so many other different nebulous objects and open clusters. The Cygnus star cloud, more globular clusters, M56. And the Veil Nebula, which I talked about in the EH article as your summer challenge object. The Veil Nebula, of course, is a supernova remnant, which definitely shows better in astrophotos than it does to naked eye, because much like the North American Nebula, it's just such a big, big object and covers such a big area of the sky. But this is definitely one to try out if you have especially a Dobsonian between 6 and 10 inches. It's a great challenge object. I've seen it many times, and it's one of those where, depending on the sky conditions and the darkness, it can be very difficult to find and to see. But once you do finally get these, filamenty wisps in the arcs here, a little bracket shape, either the east or the west one, either one, they'll both show up at about the same brightness. Once you do get that in your field of view and you notice it, suddenly it pops into view. So many times that's happened to me where I wasn't sure what I was looking at. Is that, a wispy cloud? Is that just some mist? Is that some bad seeing? And then suddenly your averted vision pops in, you realize, holy smokes. And under a nice dark and still sky with good seeing, you can actually see, even in a 6 or 8 inch scope, these wispy, wispy tendrils in here. And you can pick out the different shapes of this supernova remnant, all the gases that are left behind from a supernova when the star exploded. Lord knows how many millions of years ago. So that is your challenge object. It can be difficult, but once you get it, and it's really, really nice object to see. Moving on through Cygnus down your Milky Way as you're just cruising and floating along here, you come to Sagitta and Aquila, and a little bit up off the Milky Way, Lyra, some of the most famous and the nicest objects in the summer sky. You have the Dumbbell Nebula, M27, which is great for beginners because that's your planetary nebula, and honestly looks more like an apple core. There you go, the apple core nebula, more than it does a dumbbell, but that's a nice bright one at magnitude 7.4. Very easy to find right off the tip of the arrow here, and very easy to see in any scope, and that is a very, very nice one because you will see that shape and you will see that wispy nebulosity in there emanating from the heart of the nebula. And then up in Lyra, probably the most famous planetary nebula in the sky, the Ring Nebula, M57, right between Sheliak and Sulafat. These are the bottom, I guess the bottom stars of the lyre, the harp. And there's your Ring Nebula. Again, a stunner of a planetary nebula. And in any scope you can see that ring shape very clearly and very nicely. It is fairly small, but boy is it a great object. Moving down again through Aquila and Scutum, you come once again to the heart of your Milky Way and your galactic core down here. And as I said for July, just so many different things that you can see, and you will literally just start off here and zigzag your way down, and every time you move your scope you're going to see something. Even if it's not an open cluster or a nebula, you're going to be breaking up all the thousands of stars in the Milky Way, and it's just honestly like a captivating thing and a really engrossing experience to see if you have your scope and you can just pick out these thousands and thousands of stars that turn into just a swarm of little dots and fill up your field of view. And it's just such a wonderful, wonderful thing. And you move into Scutum where you have your star clouds and your dust lanes bracketed and shadowed by all of these open clusters and nebula. Summer really is the best month, I think, or the best time of the year for deep sky observing, because you have just so many big, bright, and wonderful objects. And for our beginners, this is the time of the year to do it. If you're picking out objects in your Messier list, if you're trying to learn how to sketch, if you're picking out objects in your NGC list, you're trying to do any observing awards programs, July and August are the months to do it because you can find them, you can see them, they're easy to find, they're bright, and they look wonderful. And so that is your sky this summer for 2025. Plenty to see, plenty going on, all of the planets visible at some point, and just a wealth of deep sky and Milky Way objects, and lots going on in the night sky. The summer will not disappoint us, and I hope that you all have some clear skies, some dark skies. Remember to bring out your bug spray. It's that time of the year. And remember, of course, as I always say, even in the summer, it can get pretty cold at night, especially if you're staying up to see some of the planets in the early morning, so prepare for that. Keep in mind, you don't want to get too chilly out there, despite the fact that it's the middle of August. It can definitely come down to 6-7 degrees, so prep well. Keep your scopes collimated, and all the best to you. I look forward to seeing you all again in September, seeing what you've observed, seeing what you've taken pics of. Send it all along my way to observing@amateurastronomy.org. And that is our Sky This Summer 2025. Clear skies and happy observing.